interesting stories happening in and around Africa.
Because we have all the morning essentials,
including the latest news, sports, weather, and events.
And of course, the people.
Daybreak Africa on Television Nigerian.
Weekdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
It is another bright and beautiful morning, and it is our great pleasure to welcome you on Daybreak Africa on television Nigeria. My name is Elvis Oga. We are glad that you are watching.
And I'm Victor Tehemba. Good morning and welcome. So today I won't be doing the newspaper with you. I'm right here with you.
Yes, Victor, good to have you around always.
Yes, good. So I'll just be staying in place for Mercy, who seems to be under the weather.
Yes, I had wanted to make mention of it, that my usual partner in progress.
Yeah. Oh, partner in progress, not in crime.
No, partner in progress. Okay, a lot of stories for concern of the day. I want us to start by dishing out the COVID-19 figures. 339 new cases recorded in Nigeria, then 67 discharged yesterday, and about 9 deaths recorded, putting the total cases now to be 7,016, and then total discharge of 1,907 and 211 deaths in the country.
We can keep getting the updates regularly. The NCDC has been doing a good job, keeping us updated every day, but then we're always kind of worry when it comes to numbers, and then we see the numbers coming, the highest number coming from Lagos State, almost all the time from Lagos State, and they're at a point where Kano seems like they were going to be changing that numbers on the regular. I think now it has been tamed a little bit in Kano and all of that.
The case in Lagos has actually attracted a concern or some level of applause from international bodies hailing the federal government to being able to contain, or the way they handled the case in Kano to a large extent. I came across a news where some international bodies were giving thumbs up to the federal government. Seriously, little concern about the number of deaths. As of yesterday, the number of deaths was 200, and then it was put out that we recorded only 9 deaths yesterday, but the total number of deaths is being put at 211 instead of 209, and Nigerians are actually reacting to it.
Yeah, well, and that could just be not a human error. It has happened before with NCDC. Sometimes they actually get to report cases that were already reported, stuff like that. So they just come back to correct. One thing about the NCDC, I know that once they made this kind of mistakes, they'll just come back, apologize, and put out this incorrect figure.
Like the case of Taraba yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw the apology as well.
Exactly.
Okay, we also have a case concerning COVID-19 flying from Lagos, from the Lagos State Health Commissioner briefing yesterday, when he was dishing out some information. A test carried out on a particular individual cost about 40 to 50,000. Nigerians are reacting to it, and he talked about Lagos having conducted about 16,000 tests, the highest in the country so far.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons people will now begin to understand one of the reasons why testing has been kind of slow. It's been expensive, and then in some cases, like even in the US, for example, they have it that the president says testing is free, but then people come out to say that there are some places they went to, they were asked to pay for testing. And also here in Nigeria, we have also gotten to hear of such reports, even though unconfirmed at the moment. But then we have also got to hear of those kind of reports that definitely some people pay for testing, and then we can now understand why this testing capacity is quite slow at the moment because 50,000 to 40,000 per person. Yes, it's a huge lot of money, and then you now begin to exactly wonder what kind of equipment exactly are they using.
In reaction to that, the Lagos State Health Commissioner was talking about looking into a way where the test can be subsidized so that the amount will be lower, because it's actually putting so much stress and burden on the government.
Yes, and that is exactly the reason why we need local investors or these manufacturers that can come out with testing kits. I think it will be a lot cheaper, like what you have in Senegal, for example, where they had to resort to local people, and then they made it quite cheap, testing capacity of $1 per person and all of that. So I think when we begin to look at these local investors or local manufacturers, maybe somebody somewhere will come up with a solution that will make the testing thing easy.
Let's take a look at some other notable keynotes from that briefing yesterday, when he was talking about Lagos State trying to look into commencing 1,000 tests per day, and then the role of or the trial of hydroxychloroquine is actually in the pipeline for Lagos, and then Lagos is trying to validate the rapid testing model for hospitals so that they will be able to test patients coming to the hospital within 10 minutes for whatever reason, whether you are coming as regard COVID-19 or whatever, you need to be tested.
And I think that's a good way, and you know, now Lagos State has always been leading the way in sort of things, like they are actually trailblazers, if you want to say exactly.
Okay, still coming from that, Lagos State is actually looking up to ramp up the health care capacity, and then they are looking at the urban renewal plan for post-COVID-19 so that people will not live in a condition that will aid the spread of infectious disease.
Basically what the health commissioner was trying to tell Lagosians that some of them are still going to be evicted in Lagos.
As time comes.
Definitely it means that. And you know, in the greater Lagos master plan that they have, I think one of the components of that plan was not to have a congested city. The Lagos City mega project that they are basically looking at. So I think everything that they've been doing so far, it has been in line, regardless of those downtrodden who might get to suffer for it. But then the Lagos mega city project must come into place according to the government.
And very importantly, Lagos State is very anxious to reactivate the economy, but
because of course
it was put in code that
700. Those guys make over 700 billion naira IGR yearly, more than any other state in the country. So they were quite anxious at this point in time. They're not making money. Even the NURTW, who seems to be like an informal sector, they also are not making money. But normally we know they used to make a lot of money from park levies, bus conductors, and all of those stuff. But anyway, we also have the issue. Yesterday we discussed about the school feeding program. Yes, and later in the show we're going to have a guest who will be talking to us, or rather who will really expatiate more on the issues concerning school feeding program, the controversies that have surrounded this issue. You know, the federal government said they are going to continue with the homegrown feeding program even while we are on lockdown. Yes, and all of that. And it has caused a lot of concerns and criticism from the lot of Nigerians. Like, if the students are at home already, they have their parents to take care of them. So instead of feeding the parents, instead of feeding the students, why not feed the parents? Then the parents in turn feed the children. I also think it's another way of some people trying to siphon money from the government coffers. But I don't know. So later on the show, we'll be having Mr. Olayemi Success, who is the convener of Civil Society for Justice and also the Vice President of NANS. So we'll be having him later on the show. But for now, let's go on to the news desk and meet with Susan, and let's see what Susan has for us from the news desk.
Good morning and welcome to AM News. I am Susan Achin. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has confirmed 339 new cases of the novel coronavirus in the country, bringing the total number of cases to 7,016 cases nationwide. Of the new cases, Lagos State is leading with 139 cases, followed by Kano and Oyo states with 28 cases each, while 15 other states record fewer number of cases. So far, 1,907 cases have been discharged, while 211 have died. The federal government has declared Monday 25th and Tuesday 26th May 2020 as public holidays to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr celebration. The Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Ralph Aregbesola, who made the declaration on behalf of the federal government, congratulated all Muslim faithful for the successful completion of the Ramadan fast. Aregbesola advised Nigerians to see themselves as a single entity and thus learn to tolerate one another despite their ethnic and religious differences. Now, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the Presidential Task Force (PTF) on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, has asked states relaxing restrictions because of Salah celebrations to exercise caution in doing so. During the PTF's briefing on Thursday, Mr. Boss Mustafa urged all Nigerians to take personal responsibility during Salah so as not to cancel the gains of the past weeks. The SGF noted that states must ensure that there are no gatherings of over 20%. He further asked state governments to ensure compliance to restriction guidelines and take community ownership to the grassroots. The nation's finance minister Zainab Ahmed says the coronavirus pandemic and falling oil prices is set to force the economy into negative growth. Ms. Ahmed made the comment after the National Economic Summit meeting in Abuja on Thursday. She added that the economic contraction will multiply the misery of the poor. And on Crime Watch, Lagos State Police Command says it has arrested Inspector Okoro Charles attached to Ikotun Division. The inspector was arrested on Wednesday in connection with a shooting incident reported along Obabi, Igando Road, Ikotun, which led to the death of one Fatai Oladipupo, a 28-year-old of Obabi area. The command said investigation is ongoing to unravel the circumstances surrounding the shooting incident. Furthermore, the Lagos State branch of the Nigerian Medical Association has reversed its stay-at-home order announced yesterday due to what it described as conflicting directives of government and law enforcement agents on the status of essential workers. The Kaduna State Command of Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC) has deployed 3,000 of its personnel to enforce the ban on intrastate and interstate travels before, during and after the Eid al-Fitr celebration. In a statement signed on Thursday by the command's public relations officer, Omdiri Tezungwe, the security agency said the 3,000 personnel will be deployed to all the nooks and crannies of the state, including entry points, in order to ensure that the COVID-19 protocol and guidelines are obeyed during the Eid al-Fitr celebration. Similarly, the management of Kaduna Polytechnic says it is moving all lectures online. It explained that the measure became necessary due to the challenges posed to physical learning by the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, Cross River State Governor Ben Ayade burst into tears on Thursday as he decried the tax burden on low-income earners in the state. The governor went on to inaugurate an anti-tax agency designed to abolish payment of taxes by low-income earners. The move is part of the state's COVID-19 palliative measures. Ayade added that the tax exemption is aimed at encouraging small and medium-scale businesses, peasant farmers, commercial transport operators, food vendors, hotels with less than 50 rooms, and others struggling to earn a living in order to expand and create a livelihood for their families. And on to the entertainment scene, music mogul Don Jazzy has opened up on his relationship with D'banj while they ran Mo his record. According to the singer and producer, he never had money issues with the Mobile One crooner. The Mavis Record CEO stated that he enjoyed an uncommon relationship with D'banj while they were together. Don Jazzy made this statement while addressing record owners to have a relationship with their artists so that they do not go behind them to collect shows. He stated that he doesn't treat his artists any lesser than he treats himself, adding that there is trust between him and all his artists. And that's it on AM News. I am Susan Achin. We now move across Africa for some more news. Stay with us.
This is news across Africa on Daybreak Africa. A new prime minister has been sworn into office in Lesotho following months of political wrangling that forced immediate past prime minister Thomas Tabane to resign. Tabane was in attendance on Wednesday when former finance minister Moketsi Majoro took his oath of office at the palace of King Letsi III in the capital Maseru. The embattled former prime minister officially tendered his resignation on Tuesday, ending a political crisis caused by his alleged involvement in the assassination of his ex-wife in 2017. He now faces court in a murder case that involves his former wife and the current wife, Now, the mother of his ex-wife, Lipolelo Tabane, a few days before taking office in 2017, has been strongly linked to current wife Messiah Tabane. Police believe the ex-prime minister also had a hand in the murder. The two have denied any wrongdoing. Now, police station closed across Burundi on Wednesday in a largely incident-free process in keenly watched general elections. The polls will usher in the post-Pierre Nkurunziza era, but voters also cast ballots for lawmakers and local-level representatives. Internet connectivity for social media and messaging apps were blocked early Wednesday morning. Now, Burundians stood in long lines outside polling stations, which opened shortly after 6 a.m. Most centers had hand-washing points for people arriving to vote, and election officials had some protective equipment in some instances. After casting his ballot, Nkurunziza praised Burundians for the peaceful conduct of the process, which he reiterated had been fully funded with local finances. He also stressed that politics was meant to serve the greater benefit of the populace. He arrived at the polling station on a bicycle surrounded by his bodyguards. He wore a tracksuit of his club, Hallelujah FC, with a brown cowboy hat with the Burundian flag. The preliminary results are expected by May 25th. The election took place despite an outbreak of coronavirus. Burundi has so far recorded 42 cases, 21 active cases, 20 recoveries, and 1 death as of May 21, 2020. In parts of sub-Saharan Africa, surviving COVID-19 also means fighting stigma. A number of countries from Ghana to Kenya and Nigeria have recorded incidents of survivors being stigmatized. Over in Cameroon, one of such survivors is on a mission to lead the fight against stigma. Ekane Anised has decided to share his experience to spread awareness about the illness. People are scared. People don't think COVID-19 could touch them. In fact, what frightens people is the images from the West where they line up corpses. Figures like 8,000 dead is television that has created the panic among Africans, he stressed. Ekane is using social media to try and de-dramatize the pandemic and is at the head of an association for COVID-19 survivors. A clinical psychologist also explains that the way COVID-19 victims are dramatically handled in the public adds to the stigma. The much-awaited bill ratifying the end of the CFA franc was adopted on Wednesday by the French Council of Ministers. This was disclosed by the spokeswoman for the French government, Sibeth Ndiaye. It was during an official visit to Ivory Coast in December 2019 that President Macron and French West African leaders announced a historic reform of monetary cooperation that was to lead to the end of the CFA franc. As the President of the Republic had been able to stress, this symbolic end was to be part of a renewal of the friendship between France and African countries, she said. The text validates the transition of the CFA franc, used by 8 French West African countries, to become the newly mooted ECO, a currency to be adopted by the entire West African bloc, ECOWAS. It also marks the end of the centralization of foreign exchange reserves of the 8 West African states with the French Treasury. In concrete terms, the Central Bank of West African States will no longer have to deposit half of its foreign exchange reserves with the Bank of France. France will also have to withdraw its presence from the governance bodies. The fixed parity of the future eco currency with the euro will have to be maintained. 8 countries concerned are Benin, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo. Critics of the CFA franc perceive it as one of the last vestiges of France's colonial domination. The Central African version of the currency, CAF, however, continues to be used in 6 countries across the region. That is the much we have for you on News Across Africa. Daybreak Africa will continue shortly with Mercy and Elvis.
That was News Across Africa. I will now take you to our newspaper review segment where we take a look at headlines making round some of the national dailies. Victor is always here with me for
the and maybe we should just kick off today's review from the Guardian newspaper.
Yes, let's do that.
So the screaming headline here says federal government insists on restrictions as governors, Muslims disagree. That story you will get to find it on page 6, and there are a few riders there. Kanu Bonu orders direct open prayers. Ilorin Emirate asks Muslims to worship at home. Federal government declares May 25th and May 26th as public holidays. Police to deploy 2,089 personnel in Play 2. Yeah, like I said, you can get full details of this on page 6. And the picture story here you'll find on the right is an inset picture of Ese Oruru, and the main picture there is that of Unisa Dahiru. Yeah, if you remember the story, Ese Oruru was actually abducted from our home in Bayelsa State by this man. Yes, so the story behind that is 5 years after Ese Oruru's abductor to spend 26 years in jail. Yesterday he was convicted, guilty, and sentenced to 26 years in prison.
Justice
this
finally
case,
for
yes, and a family, and this case has lingered on for like 5 years, exactly 5 years, because the case happened in 2015, and 5 years after, justice has gotten to the family of Ese Oruru and the rest. Well,
in as much as Nigerians will be happy that Ese Oruru is finally getting justice, Nigerians still continue to complain about the length, the duration of time,
slow dispensation of justice in the country.
in the country.
But I think that is what one of the things that the president was very particular about, seeing how we can speed up the processes and all that in court.
Okay, let's take a look at headlines from the Punch newspaper, and the screamer here says, FG asks churches, mosque, others to submit guidelines for reopening. Governors to partner presidential task force for reopening of economy. And above the nameplate, you have our stories. 10 trillion naira spent on fuel subsidy in 15 years. That is coming from marketers, and that story can be found on page 20. Observe Salah prayers at home, Sultan tells Muslims again. We have below the picture story, woman dies, child, 2 others injured in Lagos crash.
Wow. That's a very sad one there. So when you look at the pictures there, they look quite gory for the eyes to see. Anyway, so let's move on to the Nation newspaper. The Nation here has a major headline that reads, Federal government overrules governors on worship centers opening. PTF warns Nigerians warns as Nigerians buy up chloroquine drug. Yes, and that story, you'll find more details of it on the front page, but continued on page 8 as well. And here there's a picture story here of a 4-man kidnapped gang. Yes, after they were actually arrested yesterday in Bauchi. Yeah, you find that story there. And below the picture story, Federation account lost more than 25 billion naira revenue in Q1. That maybe we could also actually attribute that to the effect of COVID-19 on the economy. So Federation account lost 125 billion. I think this is one of the reasons why governors too.
I saw the analysis from the finance minister yesterday, Zainab Ahmed, when she was talking about it, and especially comparing what we were able to rake in the revenue, we were able to rake in as a country in the Q1 of 2020 compared to 2019. You see that deficit there. Yeah,
definitely you see. But that story, you get more details of it on page 25. And there is something at the some tidbit there above the name template. Lagos spent 800 million naira on 16,000 tests. Yes, to begin trial drug use. And I think that is the most we can take on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
And from the Daily Sun, the banner headline here says, Governors frustrating COVID-19 fight, says FG. And FG flays reopening of religious gathering. Below the picture story, you have Buhari signs amended order for voluntary declaration of offshore assets. That story can be found on page 24. And then we have a story of Ese Oruru's abductor bagging 26-year jail term. That can be found on page 4 of the Daily Sun.
That's when the government coming out to say governors are really frustrated, and then you could really understand why, because most governors are already reopening worship centers and allowing people to congregate, and I think that is so not good for the for the government's efforts in trying to combat the crisis. And so when we move on to Daily Trust newspaper. Yeah, the Daily Trust newspaper here has quite an interesting story for it here. So the Daily Trust says, governors defy experts warning lift ban on worship centers, and avoid congregation to witness another Salah. This is from the federal government. That's a very sound warning. You really want to experience another Salah, then you have to really avoid congregation. JNI advises Muslims to observe Eid at home, churches to resume Sunday. That will be interesting. Get more details of this inside the Daily Trust newspaper. And just below the nameplate there, federal government to hand over COVID-19 battle to governors. Wow, do you think they should do that? You find out the reasons why the federal government wants to hand over to the governors. You'll find more details of it on page 3. That was it. So Nigeria heading for recession. This is from the minister, finance minister. And that's on page 15 as well. You get more details of that. So really, I don't think it's any surprising news for other people.
It's not surprising.
I think we were already getting up for it. That definitely is from
to a large extent.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at headlines from this day newspaper. We have above the nameplate: Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority begins audit of airlines, and FD works out stimulus package for operators. The banner headline from this day says Nigeria loses 125 billion naira oil revenue to COVID-19 as price slumps in Q1. We still have story: federal government kicks against large gathering during Salah celebration.
Definitely, just the same one. Now we know. I think the this fasting ends today.
Yes.
Yeah, it does end today, and then we have the Salah coming up and the rest that way. So maybe we'll move on to the next paper, which happens to be, maybe we should take the Daily Times where you have there. Then we'll go to the next paper here.
From the Daily Times: Nigeria's economy heading towards recession. That is coming from Finance Minister. The other publication, YouTube, actually said something about that story. And we also have, beside the picture story, Kaduna denies relaxing lockdown to ensure enforcement. Enugu sensitizes residents on dangers of Lassa fever. COVID-19 Delta takes steps to reignite economy. NLC decries incessant harassment of health workers by security agents.
So yeah, we basically discussed this yesterday. Yeah, and it is just what led to the doctors in Lagos State giving a sit-at-home order to other doctors so that they don't get to come out. But then I think at the same time, the enemy in Lagos State have actually come out to relax that order and say doctors can go to work. And I think there has been an understanding between
them and
the doctors and the security forces and then the government as well. And then they also understand that they are very essential in this particular period in time, that we can't really do without them at this moment. So we move on to the last paper of the day, which happens to be the Business Day. And the Business Day here has a story that is quite touching here. And it says, left to suffer. I believe this is just part one of it. Maybe they have other series coming up. Left to suffer. Boko Haram rapists impregnated them. Now they love and hate their children at the same time. Definitely that should be a very difficult situation to find yourself. True. Details of that story you find on page 27. IMF support smoothens Nigeria's path to investors as bond yields fall. That is good news.
I saw that story yesterday, and I was really delighted that despite all the challenges that the COVID-19 is coming with, investors are still finding reasons to troop into the country.
Yeah, definitely. We always find reasons. And then, by the way, you find that story on page 28 of the Business Day newspaper. Oil marketers ask federal government to back downstream deregulation with law. Yes, I think it's really been an issue. The PIGB has always been there. So you find that story on page 26 as well. Nigeria's April inflation accelerates to 12.34%, highest in 2 years. Well, I hope we don't go too high or higher than this anyway. Find details of that story on page 26 of the Business Day newspaper, and that seems to be all that we can take on the front page of the Business Day newspaper. And I think
that's the last paper, I know.
Yeah, so it also brings us to the end of the newspaper review segment. So like I said earlier, we'll be having a guest, Mr. Olayemi Success, who is the convener of Civil Society for Justice and Equity. Will be joining us here to discuss more on the school feeding programs to throw more light on that issue. So after this break, will join us. Mr. Olayemi Moses will be joining. Olayemi Success, sorry, will be joining us after this break. Stay tuned.
Now the match don't start. Tunde na him first catch coronavirus. Him pass am to Sarah. Sarah go market and she dash Adamu. Adamu carry the virus run come give him children for house. Now so the children carry the virus enter playground. From playground, it can't enter grandpa body. Grandpa take over, pass and give him friends as they shake hand for road. Now so grandpa friends carry coronavirus go their house. So before you know, they don't throw away and give everybody for yard. Now so corona enter box 18 and he say goal! My people, if we give coronavirus chance, it go win all of us. Protect yourself and your family. Stay inside your house and make sure say you dey wash your hand with soap and water at least 12 times a day. If you get cough and fever and it dey hard you to breathe, call 0800 026 7662. Corona dey kill. Make we careful
There are a lot of false information about the coronavirus. These are the facts. People of all ages can be affected by the coronavirus. However, older people and people with pre-existing medical conditions such as asthma, diabetes, heart diseases are more vulnerable to the disease. It is not for old people alone. Gargling salt and warm water or chewing garlic and ginger cannot prevent the virus. Drinking alcohol, hot lemon, palm oil or chloroquine will not kill the virus. The virus cannot be transmitted through mosquito bites. Antibiotics do not work against the viruses. Antibiotics work only against bacteria. Boiling pineapple peels, lime and ginger does not kill the virus. Putting raw onions in rooms will not ward off the virus. Using or spraying Dettol, special oils and water all over your body cannot kill the virus. There is no scientific evidence that cooking, drinking or eating any of these is an effective treatment for coronavirus. Do not self-medicate and take responsibility by sharing only verified messages from health authorities such as NCDC, Federal Ministry of Health and WHO.
Coronavirus no be our friend, yo. Make we push am comot, yo. Corona, no be our friend, yo. Say make we push am comot, yo.
My country people, you see this coronavirus, no be joke. Make we help ourselves and our government pursue this yamayama sickness from our country. Make we remember to wash our hand every time with soap and water. Make we no forget to sanitize our hand and wear face mask when we dey come out. Also, make we avoid crowd and keep social distancing when we come out. My people, if you see say you don't dey get symptoms, make you rush go hospital make dem treat you. Coronavirus no be our friend though. Make we remember say prevention better pass cure.
Coronavirus no be our friend, yo. Make we push am comot, yo. Corona, no be our friend, yo. Say make we push am comot, yo.
Well, thank you for staying tuned. Before we went on that break, we said we'll be joined in by Comrade Olayemi Success, who happens to be the convener of Civil Society Organization for Justice and Equity, and also the Vice President, the VP on NANS. And Mr. Olayemi Moses is, what do I keep saying that? Mr. Olayemi Success is here in the studio with us. Good morning, Mr. Olayemi.
Former Vice President of NANS.
Okay, former Vice President of NANS. Wow. Oh, okay. I think I didn't get that correctly.
Good morning and welcome on the show.
Thank you very much.
So that you are also a chief convener for of the Lesson Commission of Civil Society on Justice and Equity. So what do you guys actually do in the group?
Oh, do on the group?
Yeah,
just like the name implies, civil society, we are the third eye of the society, and the voice of the voiceless per se. And of course, you agree to that. I'm sure by the time I start introducing myself, you agree that we are doing the same. We are doing similar work with you guys at the media. Of course, we can do almost nothing without your collaboration. It is known and it's a fact that leaders are liable to make mistakes. Yes. Then these mistakes must be corrected. Then beyond the check and balance mechanism available in democracy, politicians can also align as a matter of partisanship in their game. Hence, the role of civil society cannot be underestimated in putting the society to the right path at all time. And this we'll be doing over the years, challenging so many status quos. Some ground we have achieved, some we have lost. And but then, by and large, we are contributing our best to the egalitarianism of the society. And that's what we hope to continue to do. And you agree that because of doing this, frictions are bound to happen.
Definitely.
You make a lot of enemies and friends and foes alike, and this has also been part of the journey hitherto. But we are strengthened by the fact that sometimes you make the blind to see, and at the end of the day, the blind will come back to say, "Oh, I was wrong, and you are right."
Definitely. So, earlier you basically mentioned that leaders are bound to make mistakes, and that is why the less and civil society organizations are around there to lead them. So this morning we invited you so that you could talk about the school feeding program. What has been out there that we know is that the federal government insisting that they will get to feed students while they are still at home. Do you think this is a mistake on the part of the federal government?
Well, personally, I've listened to many commentaries on this particular matter, and individually, I share the sentiment of an average Nigerian that has condemned this school feeding during lockdown. Okay. That have seen it as scam and fraudulent. I share their view. But in my own formula, I always like to do the principle of Mahatma Gandhi, doing a lot of research to actually know the truth. But even at that, I have still not come to power with the government. I have not seen any reason to agree with them. School feeding is a laudable program generally, while the school was in session. It's a way to encourage the downtrodden, at least to make sure that feeding will not be the major hindrance to their world getting basic education. True. To that extent, it's a laudable program. Also, the whole world, we did not plan for COVID-19. Now COVID-19 has locked down everybody at home, maybe except you guys at the media that are doing essential services. Then this is unplanned for, like I said, and the children are at home with their parents. Suddenly, the minister in charge of humanitarian affairs came on with the continuation of the school feeding. In fact, the first time she presented it, she didn't go into detail to explain what she meant by saying school feeding will continue even during this lockdown. It was as a sort of the cries, questions, asking questions. How do you mean is school feeding not for children at school? Is school open? What do you mean by this? How do you intend to achieve it? Then they started some unconvincing explanation to me. Be that as it may, I think the idea of feeding the children during this lockdown it's not achievable. Okay. It's not achievable.
It's not achievable in what way?
It's not achievable. The children are at home. Most of our rural areas are not that lined in such a way that you can be sure of getting the address. Our data system in Nigeria is as poor as we don't have good data for good project. So telling others you are feeding these children while they are at home is not tenable. And higher explanation, because I try my best to listen to you before condemning you, higher explanation is also not convincing. Now, you say you want to feed these children while they are with their parents, and the entire world, including Nigeria, is battling and fighting the war against COVID-19. Even if you are sincere, it is not good enough to be sincere. You must be seen to be sincere.
I like that.
It is not good enough to be sincere. You must be seen to be sincere.
True.
Now, if you claim you are sincere, we are not seeing you to be sincere. The PTA are speaking. The civil society are talking. Key stakeholders in the society are talking and asking the same question, that how did we intend to achieve this? Again, even if we intend to achieve this, should that be the priority now?
So you would think that even if it can be achievable, it is not a priority for government to still carry out their pledge of feeding school children, even while they are at home?
First of all, I have the position that it is not achievable.
Okay.
Hence, when it is not achievable, and yet you do not agree with me, you say you want to go on, and this is not a thing that will cost less. No, it costs Nigeria money, huge amount of money for that matter. Hence, we have reason to conclude that this is more or less of another scam. Now going further, I said it is not achievable because we do not have adequate data. Our society is not that well alienated to the extent that you can say, some of you see, give your address by saying, when you pass mango tree or cashew tree, you go right, you turn corner, and all of that. That is the kind of address that is in our rural society. Now, furthermore, if we must achieve this, should this be the priority now? Considering the fund that will be deployed to this, knowing the fact that we are still battling with COVID-19. Many states are still battling to have testing capacity of 100 per day. Some are yet to even have any testing center. Hence, we don't even know when the whole lockdown will end. Because what should be the target is to get everybody tested. Then the rest are sure that we have eliminated the one in, then we can now control the one that can come in. From outside.
All right. Give and take. Policy in a government as democracy are supposed to be people oriented, and the people you want to carry out these policies for or on are kicking against this. What are the official and unofficial channels that these complaints or the how do I put it now, the rejection of this process by Nigerians will get back to the government so that government can actually retrace their steps?
That would be a priority when you assume that the government is not aware of this rejection. They are aware. That is the truth of the matter. You want to tell me people are not watching television in Nigeria? You want to tell me people don't know what we are doing here? You want to tell me that the government is not aware of what we are saying here? They do. They have SA medias. They have SA that are doing nothings. They are listening to all manner of programs with the purpose of feeding them back. So they are aware of our stand on this matter. Beyond this, stakeholders in the educational sectors are also speaking. The Parent Teachers Association, they have national body, apart from the state bodies, the local government body, the per school body, and what have you. They have national body. They are speaking, and I've read their statement. Their statement is that, in fact, they even watched the kick-off part of it, which was carried out in Kuje, I think last week.
Okay.
That to the extent that the people that came forth as parents of these children are not known,
as the parents,
are not known to them by the body. And you will agree with that they have the capacity to know who is a parent or who is a member of PTA. They have the capacity. If you have state chapters, you have local chapters, and what have you, then the local chapter should be able to identify and say, oh, okay, this is our member, or this is not our member. No, but they have come out to say they don't even know them.
But then going forward, then let's look at the fact. Let's look at the area where the reasons why the federal government, wants to continue with it. And then in that address talking about from the finance minister, she also stated that the president was kind of worried that children being at home would be malnourished. So one of the essentials of this project of continued feeding was to make sure that malnourished children are not neglected. Is that not a reason valid enough for them to continue with it?
Malnourished children are not limited to those that are in school alone. I think visited the IDP camp recently.
Yeah, Yes, as recent as a week ago.
And they were nourished.
Well, but then.
What of your village?
No, but then.
What of my village? What of my village? What of your village?
But
are there no minority children there?
But we expect that these children will be in schools.
The parents that are having COVID-19 without knowing, because there are no test kits to test them and confirm. And if the children are well nourished and the parents are dying, what are you talking about? In fact, they are even sending on cooked food, so who cook it for the children? When the parents are not even well and alive, when they are not healthy.
The contention here is when he's asking. Malnourishment is not only limited to people in school.
Yes.
It boils down to the deficiency in data he was talking about.
Yes.
So let's chart a way forward.
No, definitely, because as much as he is reasoning from the standpoint of an activist and a comrade, we also have to reason from the government, because this is what the government came out to say, that for the purpose of minority students not to be neglected, they are going to continue with the project, and the fact they also put it forward. Now people are looking at how are they going to go ahead with this, and then the minister said they have gotten the collaboration of the World Food Organization, who is going to partner with the federal government to carry out this project, and they are going to give out door-to-door food voucher. So I think that should also answer the question of logistics. We don't know if that is actually viable. And they're also going to have voucher lesson collecting points where parents can go to, students can go to those centers and get voucher. Does this not take care of the logistics that people are concerned about?
It is not about logistics. The challenge or the concern is not about logistics. So it is about that, one, we don't have adequate data to verify and confirm that, this actually gets to the right supposedly beneficiaries. Secondly, we are also saying that should this be the priority of the government now, it is not this project is not coming at zero cost. Should that be the priority now? Look, COVID-19, why would we want to magnify it to the extent of causing fear in the mind of the people? But you will agree with me that the aftermath of COVID-19 is hunger for everybody, if case not taken. Not only the school children, because it's already crumbling economy of nations. Now smart nations now ought to have prepared. The less smart one should be preparing along the line. Now you know what the per barrel crude oil is saying in the market now, and that is the major source of revenue for Nigeria. You know what that means? When it crashes, it affects the allocation going to each state. Then each state may end up coming back to say they can't even pay civil servant. Of course, we already seen governors slashing salary, when at this point you should be giving incentive to people.
Okay.
But then you will not blame them. It is because this is not available. Hence, what we are saying in essence is that whatever we have as a nation should be channeled toward major areas of the economy, major concerns.
So you still talking about data, and I was wondering what kind of data exactly are you referring to? What kind of data are you talking about? Because I'm trying to understand that these schools have registers. So this should be some sort of a lesson data source for the government to follow in the distribution of food and all.
Data that involve the names, detail and address of these children. Do we have that in our schools?
And I can't get that from the schools. I basically believe that every school, before you join, so you should have this kind of data.
And you equally believe that every house in Nigeria has an address.
Okay. I think every house should do.
Have a description.
You just say should. You just say should do.
Well, maybe we'll come back to this. Let's go on a quick break and see what other Nigerians on the street are saying concerning this particular subject. What they really feel about the government proposal to continue the school feeding program while students are at home. Join us after this quick timeout.
The government should talk of palliative because students are not in session. You cannot tell anybody that you are feeding children at school who are not at school. As far as I'm concerned, that school feeding is a scam.
I don't even know the name of the woman who was still standing ground that the project must go on, that they must feed the children. Now by force, you won't kill them, you won't poison them. Do you have any plan? I'm suspecting that lady. I'm surprised.
Where are the children? How do you locate those in suburb, interiors? Headmaster who come from anywhere don't know the 5% of his people where they stay. So how do you now coordinate such people?
Okay, despite the lockdown, they say the program should continue. So what is your take on that?
Today they are at home now. Continue to where? Where are they going to feed? Are they going to feed the breeze? Are they going to feed? No, maybe I don't understand. The children are at home now. Everything is on lockdown now. I'm telling you, it's on lockdown. So I don't understand feeding children of it. I don't understand. They should wait so everything is back to normal. So they cannot go to school and start feeding them.
For me, it is a very funny issue as far as I'm concerned, because when I heard it, I laughed. Why I have to laugh is because, number one, I don't really know the kind of country that we are right now. Seriously speaking. Even you that is hearing me talking now, do you know the country that you are? Is this the country you dream of? And is it the same country you want your children to say, yes, this is their country? Because look at it. For almost going to 2 months, children have been away from school because of COVID-19. Now, children have been away from school. Not only in Nigeria, right? It's a global issue. But as far as I'm concerned, COVID-19 in this country is a scam. Because I'm not the one that said it, I'm not the first person that said it. It's a scam. The pastors confirmed it. Salvation, our pastor, confirmed it that it's a scam. Even Chris Oyakilome also said it's a scam with this 5G issue. Now, that is not even the issue on ground. The issue on ground is feeding the children that are not in school. You want to make project or budget for them when they are in their father's house. And meanwhile, palliative you share during the lockdown, not every family got these palliatives. Some people even died in the process. Now you want to feed children that are in their parents' house. What about their fathers? What about their mothers? Are those children not living in their parents' home? You want to go and feed them there? Are those children the problem of this country? We have people who are hungry and starving. Even during the lockdown and after the lockdown is eased down now, people are starving. Nigerians are starving. Me, I'm starving. Forget say I get small work when I do. I dey starve. So it's madness. I don't even know the name of the woman who was still standing ground that the project must go on, that they must feed the children. Now by force, you won't kill them, you won't poison them. Do you have any plan? I'm suspecting that lady. I'm surprised I can't remember, and I've called her name on telly. That woman should tell us what is going on. Why you want force children to shop this food? Now by force. So I not talk past, so that's what I'm telling you, that we don't even seem to know if this is a country anymore. I rest my case.
Well, Nigerians on the street really having their say, and it seems like majority of Nigerians that spoke share your sentiments just as much as you earlier on said. You share the same views from Nigerians across.
Well, I think I've been vindicated. But the major point here is this: there is no how you would define or design democracy without putting people at the center. It is generally defined as government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Meaning that all in all, people must be at the center. Now, the point here is this: while we may give room for the benefit of doubt to the policymakers and the implementers, but then, like I said earlier on, it is not good enough to be sincere. It is not good enough to be transparent. You must be seen to be transparent. Look, we can even take a cue from President Muhammadu Buhari. Many of us, especially you guys, were not part of his military regime in 1984. If you were, pass as toddlers. As toddlers, if you were not born around 1917 to be old enough to know who is a president, then you won't know much about him when he was there in 1984. But after then, Nigerians believe, we were made to believe, and we believe that he's an honest man, that is sincere and trustworthy. That is the people, that is the power of the people. And the repercussion of this belief was what we all did and saw in 2015. So in implementing or in establishing any policy, you must not be transparent alone. You should be seen
so your actions
by the people to be transparent.
Definitely.
So we are not seeing that in this policy of feeding school children during lockdown. People are not convinced that you are sincere.
Okay.
Forcing yourself to go ahead again further destroy your attempt to convince us.
But then perhaps the federal government has genuine and sincere intentions, and then there is also an issue from people. Maybe that's where, as we try to round up, maybe also just touch on that people are saying the government should rather feed the parents so that the parent can in turn feed the children. And here the government is also proposing that each household, about 3.1 million households, which cover these school children, are also going to get food, these palliatives, that will contain 5 kg of rice, 5 kg beans, 500 millimeters of what do you call it?
Granite oil and whatever.
All of that. So is this not also an attempt for the government to share palliatives and reach people? So does this also not answer the question of people saying that the government should feed the parents so the parents can in turn feed the children?
Victor, you are Victor.
Yes.
Let me pick answer from the response of the minister. According to her, and the data they are using, the school children they are feeding are the children in primary 1 to 3. So I'm sure that must have answered your question that is defeated. It's primary 1, according to her. They are feeding the children in primary 1 to 3. So what about the children in primary 4, 5, 6 upward? So what they are doing is not even a solution to the problem. By her own information, by her own data she released, is already defeated. They are not taking care of everybody. By the way, this 5 kg of gari rice, whatever, for how long? Okay, you gave it to Kuje people now since last week. When will you release their parents to continue their day-to-day work? So when will the rice finish?
Well, tough questions for this federal government there to answer, basically.
So many questions on the mind of Nigerians begging for answers.
Exactly, as well. So maybe perhaps that really brings us to the end of this segment here with Comrade Olayemi Success. Thank you very much for coming around. And when we do have cause to call on you again, we definitely will hope that you honor the call again.
Oh, trust me, I like your environment. I like the TV station. And I like the professionalism in you guys. So trust me, I will just be a phone call away from you with little notification.
Thank you very much for that. Do you have any words?
It's all about thanking him for coming around, and we hope to see him again when we need him.
Yeah, definitely. And that also brings us to the end of the segment and also brings us to the end of Daybreak for today. But definitely you don't need to worry. It's Friday, TGIF, so you really need to... Okay, we're on lockdown, so you can't really have fun outside, but you can have fun within your house by staying tuned to Television Nigerian. We have a lot of other interesting programs lined up for you that you can catch up, and then if you've missed any interesting program, you can always catch up with what you've missed on our social media pages on YouTube at Television Nigerian, Facebook also at Television Nigerian, and don't forget you can also follow us on Twitter at TV Nigerian and Instagram at tvn.news. Log on to the web www.tvn.news. We all have our content all uploaded there, so you never miss a thing, not one.
Hopefully on Monday, same time, same place, we'll be back for another interesting edition of Daybreak Africa on Television Nigeria. Until then, my name is Elvis Oga.
And I'm Victor Tehemba. See you on Monday.
Daybreak Africa is your one-stop top-notch breakfast show that brings you all the interesting stories happening in and around Africa.
Because we have all the morning essentials,
including the latest news, sports, weather, and events.
And of course, the people.
Daybreak Africa on Television Nigeria.
Weekdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.